Right.
Welcome to Woodward Wings, or Woodward Wings. I don't know why I call it Woodward Red Wings. This is the first time that's ever happened. But I'm Justin Satawa. That is Flannel Sam. And at least this is a win episode, technically, because we beat the Buffalo Sabres 2 nights ago. And we play Carolina tonight. But first, we got to go over that trade deadline. Flannel, what are your thoughts on a very minimalistic trade deadline?
Um, it doesn't move the needle for me at all. You could probably say that Peter Mrazek's a better goalie at this stage of his career than Alex Lyon, and obviously Talbot's been inconsistent. But Peter Mrazek has a worse save percentage than both of them this year. Obviously, he was playing with the terrible Blackhawks, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and I think Joe Veleno and Craig Smith is literally as lateral of a move as you can possibly make. So, it's basically like they didn't make a move, but they did, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And Mrazek was playing in the beginning of the year hurt. I had my Blackhawks fan tell me that, and that he is playing a lot better as of late before we traded for him. So I do agree he's better than Alex Lyon. But where I really think this gets interesting is that you have two goalies under contract next year. And next
Yeah.
year is supposed to be the year of Sebastian Cossa. So what is it? That's my question. Are we going to roll another year with two mid-veteran goalies, or are we going to give some starts to Cossa and start letting us be in our window and start getting him the opportunities and the experience that he needs to be our starting goalie of the future until Trey Augustine is ready? And then
That
we have
is
a tandem of young goalies.
that is a fantastic point, and honestly, that's not something that me, the fan, is looking forward to. Just another year of mid veterans, especially mid 35 years older, older veterans. I want to see. We talked about it last week that both of us, I think, agree that Kosa's been in GR for longer than even we would like, and I would like to see him towards the end of the year, but especially next year, how could you not give him some run? Maybe he's just not good enough, but judging by his Grand Rapids numbers, I don't think that's the case, and his minimal experience up at the NHL level.
And there is 30 years of difference in the style of hockey, but Chris Osgood had worse stats when he got pulled up to the Wings. And yes, they had better defense than this Red Wings team has, but Costa has better stats in GR. So it's an every given scenario type of deal, but I just think that we're just holding Costa back to make sure that he's ready. But at what point do you just let him go and be like, kid, you got this?
I would do it right now. I would have never made the Mrazek move. I would have done it to end the year if they were to make no move. I said as much last week that I would give Kosa a run for the rest of the year. Obviously, that's not going to happen. They're going to go forward with a lot of mid to worse than mid in their goaltending room, and we'll just see what happens. I don't suspect it will move the needle really at all, but
Yeah,
oh well.
and it's clear that something is afoot in terms of what we're doing in our goalie room. But thank the Lord, the offense woke up. Oh my God, that was so fun to watch. 7-3 over the Sabres, much needed for this Wings team, especially the power play. But how are we feeling about this last week of games?
This last week of games, I'm feeling that if you had any ideas, and I mean the slightest of ideas of doing anything this season if you're the Red Wings, you had to beat Buffalo. There was no choice about it. It was a must win. I still honestly don't think it's going to move the needle in terms of their season standings that much given what they have ahead, but when we talk about the losing streak that the Red Wings are in, half of those games, they more than doubled their opponents in shots. So this was finally the day where they were putting pucks in the back of nets. They weren't running into hot goaltenders. And the people I love to see, and we're going to talk about it more later. I mean, Kasper had a big day. DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, of course, Larkin, Raymond. They all had multiple points at least. So you love to see that. It was just, I think it was cathartic for me as a fan. It's like finally something is happening. And I think for the players as well, because I think they were getting frustrated.
They definitely were. They needed something to go right. You saw Patrick Kane in his interview after the game. He's like, sometimes they don't go in, and today they were going in. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened against the Sens. Olmark made some great saves. And I actually got into an argument on Twitter with a guy who said that the Wings were just missing chances. It doesn't matter if you're missing chances if Olmark is making the saves. there can be a whole open net, and Allmark can cover 25% of it and still make the save. And that's a good play by the goalie. It doesn't matter. He made the save. And yeah, the Red Wings need to do a better job at scoring sometimes. In that game's particularly, Raymond missed a couple of chances. Larkin missed a couple of chances. DeBrincat missed a couple of chances. You need some more scoring. You can't only score one goal. And when you're against that hot of a goalie, unfortunate, obviously, the buzzer beater didn't go in time. But then, you get last night and you get the offense, and you needed that because now you're going to go into a stretch, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. You got Hurricanes, Golden Knights, Capitals, Golden Knights.
Oh.
Like, that is a gauntlet going forward for the next week. And you have to pull out some wins. 2-2 is the only option, or you are out. You are out.
Yeah, 2-2 is the only option. I don't know how plausible that is, but at the end of the day, we'll talk about that a little bit more later, and anything can happen in the NHL. And at least they got the must of the must wins. Like, if that game didn't go the Red Wings' way, I would be just depressed as MFer right now, and probably would have raised a lot of hell on this show and a Wake Up Woodward. But they stabilized the ship a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yeah, they definitely did stabilize the ship, and the sustainability factor for this team is the power play, and I saw you talking about it on Wake Up Woodward, and I love what you had to say about it, so I wanted to bring you this opportunity to bring it to this audience as well.
Well, I've said this season that they've been power play dependent, they are power play dependent, and they're going to be power play dependent. The reality is they're second in the NHL in power play percentage and 15th in the NHL in scoring. So that to me tells you that they're power play dependent. And you saw in the 6-game stretch where they were on a 6-game losing streak, whether or not they ran into hot goaltenders like Linus Ullmark or not, their power play percentage dipped to under 20%, and you saw they were struggling. They can't win unless they convert their power play percentages on a consistent level, and it's not the most sustainable way to win, at least in terms of winning, in terms of making the playoffs. But if they can at least finish the season at about where they've been, they'll give themselves a chance to at least put up a respectable point total to end the year. But if they don't, I'm worried that this point total will end up looking like a 8 to 10 point dip from last year, which I definitely wouldn't want.
Yeah, and I mean, partially it's also the East is brutal.
Sure.
And I mean, I don't know. This season's just become so hard to judge. But one person who has lifted up their expectations for us throughout this entire season was Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane will be a Red Wing next season, no doubt about it. His family loves it here. He has shown that he has more juice in the tank. He's playing well. He has better 5-on-5 numbers than DeBrincat in terms of how much he affects the game. He's really turning back the clock and showing why he is such an NHL great and such an offensive weapon.
What's been so great, I mean, Patrick Kane obviously isn't a perfect player at this stage of his career, doesn't always give the effort that you would love defensively, but at the end of the day, he had his 4th 5-point game of his whole bleeping career. And that's Patrick Kane. This guy's won, Hart Trophy, Conn Smythe, Calder, 3-time champion, multiple 100-point seasons. This was the 4th time in his entire career that he had a 5-point game. What we've seen from Patrick Kane is obviously, more consistency than maybe I would have thought. You laid it out beautifully with him being a more effective 5-on-5 player on a per game basis than DeBrincat, but also with a game like last night, with the propensity for the game-winning goals and shootout goals. Those are things that he's been his entire career. It's almost like every 4 or 5 games or so, or maybe a little bit less, but just every once in a while, and more often than maybe you thought you would before the year, you're seeing prime Patrick Kane, or him having prime Patrick Kane moments, and you can tell how much it lifts this team. They needed an adult in the room. They needed a veteran to just say, enough is enough. I'm going to not do it myself, but I'm going to have a 3-point first period, and he went out and did it.
Yeah, and it's honestly remarkable. It really is. And he is the legend that he always has been. And you hit the nail on the head. He just takes over the moment and like no other. There's no one else on this team that can take over a moment like Patrick Kane and be this team's rock when they need him, when they need a goal like Patrick Kane.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
That's
so Patrick
so many big
Kane
ones.
obviously has his partner in crime. They've been together for years. Alex DeBrincat put up his 30th goal of the season, and he's just playing all around such great hockey. His defense has improved. His offense has improved because of that fact. It's put him in better position. I'm so excited to actually be calling DeBrincat in the star class of the NHL again, not this mid player that we kind of started thinking, is DeBrincat really worth that contract in the beginning here under Lalonde? But ever since that McClellan has came in, DeBrincat has made stride after stride after stride and is showing this pure offensive prowess that he has had his whole career.
I was going to say, I had my doubts about DeBrincat. I have a lot of issues with some aspects of how he performed last year. And I think even he would tell you he underperformed last year. But this year, my problem level with DeBrincat is at a big fat 0. The reality is he already has a 30-goal season and there's 17 games left. I would have fallen over my face taking that if that would have been offered to me as a fan at the beginning of the year. He's playing great. He's even during that 6-game losing streak, he had a couple of really good games at the beginning of it. It's just it didn't quite result in wins, although not his fault. Very impressed with DeBrincat this year, and he's living up. And heck, I'm not calling for it, but if he really gets on a heater, he could be approaching 40 goals, which he's done already twice in his career. That might be what it takes for the Red Wings to actually be in the mix at the end of the year. Not calling for it, but the point is he's been playing fantastic.
I would completely agree with that. I think that 40 is not out of the question. I think that that's a great goal for DeBrincat, and I would love to see that for him. On top of that, on the financial side of things, his contract is such a steal over the next couple of years because of the fact it was signed before the salary cap goes up in the next 2 years. When we're actually ready to compete, his contract is going to be almost nothing for the value he's giving it to you. So I'm so happy about that, and especially the fact that they've added Marco Kasper into the mix as the center of Kane and DeBrincat, and he has looked phenomenal there. And to put a rookie in between two guys who are just consistent offensive talent, Kasper's really stepped up his defense. In the first period of DeBrincat's goal, he was in the corner battling for a puck. He made a perfect breakout pass behind the back to the middle of the ice to Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane left it out. A backhand saucer pass into space for DeBrincat, letting him take that cut in the shot to snipe the goalie. And it was just a great play by Marco Kasper, and that's so impressive because it takes so much vision to be able to do something like that. And he just continues to grow, especially I love him playing center. He's been stuck on the wing all year, and when he's played center, he's been on the lower lines, which has really hurt him. He's not ready to carry a line offensively, and that's clear. But when you put him with guys who can help him produce, he is looking like an absolute stud.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that play in question because that was as impressive of a sequence as I've seen from Marco Kasper this whole year, and it resulted in a goal. But yeah, obviously Marco Kasper during that stretch where he was on the first line as a wing, very impressive. Loved it. For a stretch, he was averaging about a point a game, but seeing him as the second line center, I'm like, that's why he's really here. That's why you drafted him. That's what I really wanted to see. And you could see when he gets talented veteran wings on his line, he is going to thrive. Honestly, of all of the things that I enjoyed from that Sabres game, Marco Kasper was honestly the thing that I enjoyed the most because I've already in my head accepted that the Red Wings probably aren't going to make the playoffs. Not to be doomsday, but their schedule is by the numbers the most difficult to end the year, and they went into an ill-timed losing streak. But if I can continue to see Marco Kasper look like this as a second-line center, that's what's going to probably give me more hope and more calm than just about anything else about this season.
It's also the versatility as well. I mean, the fact that he can play wing and play center as well, it really gives the Red Wings the flexibility that they need to continue to rebuild this team. You're talking about you might have all your centers that you need when you're ready to compete. You have Larkin, Danielson, Kasper, and Kopp. That's a pretty good four. Like
I would agree
if
with that.
Kasper and Danielson grow to who we think they're going to be, that's a solid 4 centers right there. And if you want to bring in another center, you can move Kasper or Danielson out to the wing.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about having our future lines. Like I was going through it the other day, and you could see like with all our prospects that they're going to minimally have to add, which is why it's so crucial for them to bring in a superstar. They're going to have so many guys on rookie deals. There's so many guys who they can bring in on cheaper contracts to play in the fourth line. This is going to be such a great opportunity for the Red Wings, especially with the salary cap going up, that they are going to be able to take full advantage of it because it goes up as they go into their Stanley Cup window.
Yeah. And I hope that Steve Yzerman takes full advantage of that. We'll see. We'll see where he's at with the whole process of everything, because I think we can both agree that his last offseason hasn't turned out to be the best. I don't think that they were surrounded with enough high-quality veterans. I know that the Tarasenko signing at the time I was for, the Talbot signing at the time I was for, the Gustafsson and all of that bungling of the defense I definitely was not for. But at the end of the day, I'm just glad to see younger guys making a difference, because it's literally the only reason why I'm as calm as I am. And I think it's justified
and that's
the reason that it's as calm as I am.
Yeah, and that's fair. And while we're on this topic, before talking about the future, I actually forgot to put something on the show sheet, Flannel, so I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
But I'm going to go off the board here because there was actually reports from Axel Sandin Palenka's agent about what he's going to do at the end of the SHL season, which is coming to a close right now. They're in their playoffs. And it has been out there that Axel Sandin Palenka will be in North America to end the NHL or AHL season. So he will be getting reps in North America on North American ice, getting adjusted. The plan seems, as from what his agent said, that he will be in the NHL next year at some point. It might not be to start the season, but at the same time as well, his contract also says he will be in the NHL. The Red Wings are not going to waste 2 years that he is worth $980,000 with him in the AHL. They've already done that with him in the SHL. They've given him the time over there to develop. But now it's time for him to produce and help this Red Wings team on a day-to-day basis.
I was gonna ask you, Justin, because you're the ASP insider of the whole network at this point. How much do you think he can contribute to the team potentially even next year?
Put him with Seider, he'll be fine. He's good enough offensively where Seider will be able to gap his defensive inefficiencies, and he's going to be – you're going to watch him just the first time he gets on the ice, and he's going to look like he's been there for a while. Like the way he's going to skate compared to a lot of other NHL players is going to be insane. And he's just so good with his vision, and it might take him a couple games, but – I mean, you saw Edmondson, in the spring of last year, and then you see him now, and the improvements that he made over one offseason. That's why I think it's so important that you give ASP a couple games in the NHL to show him what it's going to be like. You bring him over here, you give him a couple games in the A, then you give him a couple games in the NHL to end the season, and then he's ready to go next training camp going into the fall.
I would love to see it, because we've seen guys come up. And we're starting to, I think, gather at this point, and many of us already foresaw it, that Steve Yzerman, you can question a lot, but pretty much everybody he drafts comes up and produces. And if ASP is another one, and then we go on to Nate Danielson, I love that. I absolutely love that. Like I said, I would.
We're talking on one miss.
Yeah,
we're talking about one miss in the first round over his entire tenure. Like let's let that sink in for a second.
No,
one miss.
Fantastic. I can't.
And the miss was bad. The miss was bad. Well, and everyone will say that, we know. But he has followed the miss up with really, really, really good drafts consistently.
Can't say anything about his drafting. And like I said before, what's giving me a lot of hope is seeing the young guys continue to produce. And if ASP is everything that you think he is, like first line with Seider, what more can we say? And he wasn't even that high of a draft pick. That would be kind of a steal if he is what you think he is.
100%. And another person who's looking like Silas Soderblom, I mean, he looks great on that first line, and he continues to raise his stock, in my opinion. The fact that he is able to not look out of place on that Larkin and Raymond line says a lot to me. He is a big physical presence who does what's right for that line. He's big for that line. He makes plays, and I really like the balance that they show when he's on their line.
I was gonna say, let's go back in time for a second. Just imagine even January 15th, I'll throw a random date of this year, if I would have told you that Elmer freaking Soderblom would be on the first line with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond, and he would look good doing it. He would look like just a much more skilled player than he's ever showed before. You want to talk about reasons to get excited. That guy's a viable part of the present and the future. He's not just somebody that it's a foregone conclusion you're going to bury on the bottom six and him just be a depth piece. And that wild card with him, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, he has a physique that even other fellow NHL players wish that they had and drool over. 6'8", and he knows. Hey, Spenny in the background, hell yeah. He's 6'8", and he's showing more and more that he knows how to use it, and he's got way better hands and skating ability than I ever thought that he had.
Oh, 100%. His skating ability has really been impressive, especially at that size, being able to move like that.
Yeah.
It is just crazy. And the thing is, you can see the Red Wings, what they're building. You have Seider and Edvinsson, two massive defensemen who lay the body at will. You have Soderblom, who's 6'8", and absolutely mauls kids. You have Michael Bronzing-Nygaard, another 6'6" plus forward who's just bangs. Like, this team is going to be so physical and so hard to play against in the next 2 years. It's going to be crazy. I'm just getting so excited. I know, like, we're still in the middle of the season, but like when this team is like full of everyone who we've been talking about, and you keep seeing them come up and produce, like, this team is going to be so good. It's so nice.
And sometimes obviously you need the Seiders to hit and the Raymonds to hit, but just someone that you take a flyer on, Elmer Soderblom becoming viable, that's a huge. I think that's going to be a huge sort of event in terms of the Red Wings development, because it's not just about hitting the top 10s. If you can hit some lower round picks, I mean, even Albert Johansson, he wasn't a first round pick either. If you can also hit on some of those, that's the sweet spot. Just drafting at all levels. And like I said before, not to keep bringing this up, especially when they're really ready, when all of the young guys are really up here, like I said, just supplementing with better veterans in future off seasons. I think that Stevie Y will. That's to be determined.
Yes, and that's a perfect segue. We're gonna go into our little therapy session we got right here, Justin Hall therapy session. And for me, the fact that this guy is on contract for the next year is kind of scary. I think that he is someone you have to trade. You have to get you got to eat the cap. You got to get rid of him. He is a net negative on this team. He lost you that Senators game. Straight up. I'm going to be blunt.
Yeah.
He walked into the corner when there was already two guys down there, leaving his guy wide open in front of the net. For Rasmussen to cover two guys, and then Talbot's 5 feet out of his net for them just to push the puck in the net. That is ridiculous. We are an NHL level defenseman, and we're going to the corner on a PK when there's two guys already down there. Like, this is 8U hockey.
Can I segue that? Because Justin Holl obviously plays a big role in that. That was a microcosm of what has bothered me the most about this season. There is no excuse at this stage of the rebuild to be the worst PK in the whole bleeping NHL. And what do you know? Justin Holl sees some time on it. And Justin Holl, he should be where he was last year, which is the press box watching games. Who would have thought that you'd miss Jeff Petrie so much? I'm dead serious.
Seriously.
Like, it's insane, but it's true. Justin Holl and Eric Gustafsson, just even put the PK aside as your third pairing, is just, it's a debacle. Your ceiling is so limited by that, and when they're each getting time on the PK as well, it starts to make sense why it's so bad. I mean, not just bad, it's costing you games. multiple games, points, plural. Like,
Yeah, and it's really
yeah.
it's really like it's tragic because if you would have brought in, like we were talking about it, the Blackhawks just did a better version of what the Red Wings did. Like they really brought in like really nice vets to complement. Although they had some other internal locker room issues, which kind of caused them to be so bad. But like Connor Murphy, Alec Martinez, like all these guys would have been better options. It seems like, even though they're playing for the Blackhawks right now.
I was about to say, like, it didn't do a whole lot for the Blackhawks, but they would have done something for the Wings because the Blackhawks, they're just.
They are 3-1-1 in the last 5 games since they traded Seth Jones away. So they've been buzzing.
That was a very smart move by them because they were becoming that organization that really doesn't know what they're doing. They've got what you think is their future superstar, and I still think he probably will be, but I didn't think the roster building up to the Seth Jones trade was seismic, I think, because he's the type of guy with his contract. It's like, how did they move him? Well, they found a way.
Yeah, and the Panthers got a good deal on him, so good for both sides. Now we head on to the weekend, the games, Carolina and Vegas. We gotta win. You gotta win one. You gotta find a way. Like you gotta go 2-2 in this next tough 4-game stretch. You gotta find a way to stay in the race. How are you feeling? Carolina's on an absolute heater. They've won like 8 straight. They just absolutely dismantled Tampa the other night. I watched the game. They're so fast. They're so deep. Like they really could expose the Red Wings. I'm gonna be straight up honest with you.
I'm not gonna lie. As a Wings fan, I hate playing Carolina more than just about any team in the NHL. They choke the life out of you. They're like pythons. They're so deep. They all are so gritty. Every single line, it's like no Mikko Rantanen, no problem, right? I honestly don't think that the Red Wings are going to go into Carolina and win. I think the chances are very minimal, especially Carolina's the type of team where I really think the Red Wings are going to miss a guy like Andrew Kopp, just as another depth piece to
100%.
counteract the depth of Carolina, which even their fourth line is good. It's insane. They've got guys who are putting up damn near 30 points. But Vegas at home, I know Vegas is first in their division. I know Jack Eichel is having just a spectacular season, and honestly maybe going to finish with the best statistically of his life. The one aspect where I think the Golden Knights could be got, and I'm not saying it will happen, Adin Hill has been more to me mid than good this year. One of his weaker seasons, in my opinion, just if you look at the numbers. And their backup, their name escapes me. He has a save percentage of under 900. So you might be able to win a high-scoring game against Vegas. But it's going to depend on, as we said before, draw penalties, convert in the power play, then maybe you can steal one from Vegas.
That's the one you're going to most likely need to steal. Going into Carolina's tough. Vegas is going to be on a back-to-back. They play in Buffalo the night before. They got to fly to Detroit and play an early game. That's going to be a tough back-to-back for them. You're going to have to capitalize early and often. If you can get an early power play and a goal, that would be ideal. But you're gonna have to score some goals. It's gonna be a high scoring game. They're not gonna a low scoring game with either of these teams. You're gonna have to win 5-4, 6-5 games against these two opponents because that's what your style is. You need to play that high scoring game. They're gonna try to choke you out. Both these teams are gonna try to choke you out. You need to find a way to produce goals, to find a way to win these games. You need wins. They're gonna leave wins on the table.
Yep. I think you said it on the show sheet, minimum 2 points. And that's a big ask. You wish that it didn't have to be this way, but the Red Wings, they've put themselves in that position. And by the way, 2 out of 4 points, that doesn't mean get 2 out of 4 points or else everything is a failure and burn it down. It means your playoff hopes just go from slim to damn near none.
Yeah. And we're talking about like we got lucky last night. The last 2 nights actually. Like the Blue Jackets lost.
That's big.
The Sens lost. No, the Sens won. The Canadians lost. We're getting these opportunities where the teams above us are also losing. Like it's not always going to be like that. We have to be able to capitalize on the leeway that they gave you. The 6-game losing streak should have assassinated the season. That should have been a point of no return. but you still have a chance to return from there, surprisingly. And now you got to go out there and you got to win some games.
Yep. Really wish there was Chicago or San Jose on the schedule, but we can't live in that world, even though I just brought it up.
Yeah, well, we live in the world of reality where we have the hardest schedule in the rest of hockey, but we're going to be locked in the rest of the way. Hopefully the Red Wings can give us a good weekend, and we'll catch you next Friday at the same time. This has been Justin Satawa. That is Flannel Sam. We appreciate you tuning in to Woodward Wings, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Have a great day. Peace.